a substantial business proposal was placed on his desk. Intrigued, the elderly man asked Jeju what this whole thing was about. With a smile, this man asked his father to go through a few pages of this proposal. Young quickly discovered that this had to do with his son's colonization endeavors in the Maroon Kingdom. A few more moments elapsed while the chairman perused every document that was presented to him, and after finishing he questioned Jeju about the veracity of all of this information. Choi Jeju then gave his father the reassurance that all of these things were true and that he already had a good rapport with Duke Bayan, the non-player character, and the economy of the game that the agent group created will be in their hands if everything goes as planned. They'll seize complete command of it. Soon Young gave his son 50 billion won instead of 8 billion. He instructed Jeju to use that sum of money to settle the dispute. He would not give him any more. This was also his son's final opportunity from him. The guy's expression brightened at the prospect of having another opportunity to prove himself. He expressed gratitude to his father for the chance. Jeju then departed the room. After that, the elderly man was left on his own to reflect on what he had just read about the game. He believed that the interior of Arcadia truly is a different world. He grinned, surprised that such intricate details could be found in a simple game. Choi Soon-young gave more thought to the idea that the world was actually changing at this point. Returning to Duke Bayan estate in Arcadia, this enormous home was extremely well guarded. And in Duke Bayan's room right now was this guy called Sir Lino from the Harmony Empire. The elderly man questioned him about his reason for visiting this place. His empire sent him because they had a proposal and knew Duke Bayan was already getting ready for battle. The Harel Empire has shown a great deal of interest in the Harel Plains, and they would support Duke Bayan in this war if he could guarantee them this location. They would also see to it that the elderly man ascended to the throne of the Maroon Kingdom. This offer from their neighboring empire was quite intriguing. The Maroon Kingdom and Harmel Empire were centered on the Harel Plains, and their country's defense would significantly improve if they could obtain this. Duke Bayan believed that this was a plausible suggestion that was not likely to become a trap. After that, he accepted the suggestion, and they signed a contract. This elderly man expressed his gratitude to Sir Lino for their current type of relationship. Sir Leonardo responded to Duke Bayan in the same way, expressing his hope that nothing would persuade the elderly man to reconsider his choice. And the Duke of all the nobles acquired a new ally in this way. He was very pleased with himself because everything he had planned was working out. That's when he thought of this verse. Duke Bayan felt that this verse was really for him, under one person, but above the whole world. He could relate to it in a way because, in a way, he now controls everyone around him. He grinned because the only person above him was a naive 8-year-old king. He believed that this nation sincerely needed a king to guide them toward prosperity, and he would like to be that king. And as he was grinning at these plans, someone else interrupted him. Choi, the head of the GM merchantry, was the one who went into his room. The reason for his visit to see him face to face was questioned by the Duke. Choi then disclosed that his work was already completed. He bought every ration that would be produced in the future from the Parkle Kingdom's territories. Furthermore, he had purchased every item in the market's current supply. The fact that the adventurer in front of him accomplished all of those tasks in such a short amount of time impressed the elderly man. He then questioned the idea of purchasing the rations ahead of time. Choi revealed to him that he made use of the futures trading idea. This type of agreement was made in order to exchange specific goods on a predetermined future date. The concept obviously impressed the Duke, who commended the adventurer's merchantry. Then this man started to move. Since he had fulfilled his end of the agreement, he wanted to ensure that everything they had discussed in their meeting was in place. Duke Burton then grinned in this way. He hid and informed Choi that they were moving too quickly in this adventure. And at this moment, the Duke couldn't even be bothered with these things. After the war is over, this old man promised to talk to him about all of these topics once more. Choi attempted to interrupt and sought further confirmation. Duke Burton was irritated by it though, as it seemed that Choi was questioning him. This was more than sufficient to intimidate and quiet the man. He was aware of the Duke's capture. Choi then gave a courteous response because he was at a loss for words. He can't push this contract too far because the Duke might decide to change his mind. Duke Burton escaped once more with nothing lost, and Choi Jeju punched the wall immediately after the Duke exited the room. He was really upset that a computer character in a game had defeated him. Having already spent a great deal of money to curry favor with the Duke, he reasoned that he should just go along with this arrangement. It turns out that Jeju purchased 500,000 gold and utilized it to purchase every grain available in the market, and he used up every one of the 50 billion ones that his father had given him. However, this sum was insufficient to purchase all of the grains that were presently found inside Arcadia, and that is how the idea of futures trading was born. He ensured that his move would allow him to turn off the Parko Kingdom. However, he had to pay 10 million gold to complete the deal. This would be worth 1 trillion won if converted to their currency. If this plan fails, it will have an impact not only on the GM merchantry within the game but also on their primary GM group business. This guy knew that Suna would not allow him to do something like this, so he kept this from his father. He was trembling a little since he was already considering how he could escape this predicament. All he had to do was ensure that a war would break out, and from what he understands, it will undoubtedly arrive. Given that this was his last option, Jeju believed it should be successful to demonstrate his worth, but he felt something because he was preoccupied with these ideas. He was wondering who the person in front of him was when they just passed by. Choi Jeju dashed to meet this individual, but it was too late. The man had left already. He realized he missed him while he was still gasping for air. This guy believed that the mysterious man's attire was only appropriate for new players. Now he was wondering why the Duke's mansion was being approached so casually by a low-level adventurer. This guy was acting suspiciously because he was under so much stress. Next, he released this single. Suddenly, a group of men dressed entirely in black emerged. He informed the men that someone was now inside the meeting room and asked them to watch out for him and bring him to Choi Jeju. This man would make sure that this mysterious beginner did not interfere with his plans, even though he did not know who he was. While all of this was going on, our hero gave the elderly man a letter of recommendation inside the Duke's meeting room, pretending it was from Count Brocken. However, Duke Burhan was too intelligent and realized that this was not the true reason Dex went to see him. With a smile, Dex informed Duke Burhan that he intended to have Count Brocken put to death. This took him by surprise. The elderly man was then given a detailed explanation by our hero, who concluded by saying that Count Brocken wanted Duke Burhan because he believed it was the only way to stop the war. This elderly man would never blindly accept something from a stranger. He requested some proof from Dex. Then, Dex informed him that the mere fact that he was inside was sufficient evidence, and that he didn't need to provide any more. Count Brocken was motivated to harm him as well. Then, Duke Burhan concurred with our hero. Then, Dex's familiars began conversing with him. They informed Dex that he had the idea and that he was now distorting the truth. Satan, however, believed that Dex was acting intentionally. This was verified when our hero gave Satan a signal to keep things to himself for the time being. The Duke said to Dox that he never thought Count Brocken would act in such a way, but Dox pointed out that when people are desperate, they will do anything. The elderly man then moved on to the main topic. He inquired as to what Dex desired in return for all of this knowledge. Dex was already prepared for this king and waiting to pose this query. He informed Duke Burhan that the response was clear-cut. Dex wouldn't want a young child to ascend to the throne. He was supporting a seasoned and astute individual. This was more than sufficient to win the respect and attention of the elderly man. Our hero, however, didn't end there. He went on to say that he would want this wise duke to rule over a kingdom. And it ended there. Duke Burhan was left giggling uncontrollably. Then he called out his name to this adventure, and our hero revealed his monikers to him. The powerful, elderly Dex. These two shook hands and seemed to understand one another. Duke Burhan has already acknowledged how much he loves our hero. Following that successful brainwashing and a nasty meeting, Dex exited the mansion. El had already prayed to her god to pardon Dex for acting in such an insane manner. Not even Satan anticipated this move. Their master has positioned himself between two opposing forces. However, Dex later admitted that he was merely playing around with credibility, and it made these two silent. Our hero stated that sooner or later a war would break out, and the person who would start it was the only thing they were waiting for. However, one thing was certain all along. When the war began, Dex positioned himself for greater responsibility. This would imply that he will play a significant role once more and help him gain greater credibility, similar to what happened with the slime incident. Satan realized that a war would be advantageous to his master. However, he questioned why he hadn't gone straight to Duke Burhan. With a smile, Dex informed him that if he did that, his plan would fail. In the unlikely event that Duke Burhan ascends to the throne, our hero needs a fighter, with Count Brocken as their only option. This demon king was astounded to see his master's intricate scheme laid out in front of him. He discovered that his master would incite an additional internal conflict in addition to the chaos on the outside that Dex desired to be apart from. And it would actually be more chaotic with this one. Dex had intended to gain an advantage in 2 wars, and he was already in a great position at this point. Satan was now in awe of his master's scheme. Double the conflict, make it twice as plausible, and then, out of nowhere, a notebook appeared. The all-powerful Demon King began to jot down RMC's life philosophy. Dex's plans were enlightening him. This man was more of a demon than anyone he had ever met. Dex heard a voice as he was savoring this moment. Then, 2 shadowy figures materialized in front of him, beckoning Dex to accompany them. And this guy kept a composed expression, as usual. He even believed that the situation at the GM event later that night would be enjoyable. This location with these men's bases, and they have Dex with them at the moment. Choi welcomed him as he was being raised. Choi was sarcastically thanked by our hero for sending escorts to fetch him, and this man gave the compliment back. They have more than enough personnel available for a mission of this nature. The names of these 2 adventurers were kept a secret. Thus they were aware that something was amiss. Now these two explorers who might one day alter the course of Arcadia were seated across from one another at this table. Talk started by Dex. He questioned his upbringing in this place. He discovered that Choi's only intention was to double-check. Dex was obviously irritated by this reason, as it was not a very good one. Choi asked our hero why he was with Duke Bayan without wasting any more time. Then, because he really doesn't need to tell him anything, Dex declines to respond to this question. Choi hit the table with his fist. This response kind of infuriated him, so he began threatening Dex. He attempted to project a menacing aura in the direction of our hero. His familiars appeared as a result, cautioning Dex not to screw around with this man. At that point, Dex began to consider his circumstances rationally. These two had already ambushed him from the beginning. This guy was pretty sure he could get away with this move because he didn't reveal his in-game name, even though another 5 of them were blocking the entrance. He was certain that Dex wouldn't take offense. Already, our hero was beginning to rely more and more on his divine descent, believing he had no other option. But he was stopped by someone. It was John Smith, an elderly man. He quickly expressed his regret to Dex for their poor start. Dex sensed right away that this old man was someone worth speaking with. He also emphasized Choi's mindset. He doesn't appear to have been asking inquiries only. And once more, this man yelled, cautioning Dex against getting too close to Duke Bayan. Our hero became more playful with him as he began to enjoy himself. Choi then informed Dex that he would ensure that things started to get harder for him going forward. But John Smith interrupted Choi before he could say anything more ominous. He informed his boss that he had already gone too far and that he should cool down. John Smith attempted to clarify what was actually going on while apologizing to Dex once more. Dex smiled at this because the elderly man was truly unique. Then, it became clear that they belonged to the GM group, which was their true identity. Dex was obviously taken aback and inquired about their legitimacy as the GM group, to which they confirmed. Next, a bag containing gold coins was placed on the table. The elderly man informed Dex that while he really couldn't reveal everything, their company had already made a sizable financial investment in Duke Bayan. They then inquired as to whether our hero was aware of their predicament, and he accepted it cheerfully because it was free money. He will simply abandon the mission that the Duke assigned him in return. These two were taken aback by the abrupt turn of events. After the meeting that night, it was over. Additionally, Dex was currently being questioned by his acquaintances. The fact that the GM group also desired to start a war startled Satan. Their master was also pleased since he thought the GM group had given him an unplanned allowance. He now understood that the GM group had also made significant financial commitments to this game and that, should the war break out, they would profit. However, as he was also anticipating the war, this had no bearing on him. Then, Dex abruptly stopped moving. There was a problem. This guy still had a lot of anger toward Troy because he truly irritated him. Then he declared to Elle and Satan that he already knew what to do. He made the decision to kill Duke Bayan while grinning. When he heard this, Elle was somewhat pleased, but Satan was not. Now he was objecting to his master's decision to assassinate a duke who was more than capable of ruling the realm. Elle, in the meantime, was pleased that his master would at last take positive action. In this manner, Dex could also honor his pledge to Count Brocken. Elle was also informed by Dex that he would not carry out her wishes. It broke this angel's heart, but if he tells them about this plan, he cannot be killed. Then she began to complain about this notion. She won't permit our MC to employ divine descent either. Elle began to chastise our MC for his behavior, and Dex did everything in his power to get his familiar to take his circumstances into account. Satan was left to watch and stare at them as they argued. However, he had a brilliant thought. This kind of smile was given by our bad boy, the Demon King. Then he gave his master a call. Satan assured his master that he was still capable of lending him some abilities, if he didn't mind that it came from the world of demons. Satan disclosed that he was able to give him the same ability, divine opposition. This is not what Dex was expecting. Then, as Satan began to form the Aconite Tract, our MC was accompanied by a magic circle. After that, the system informed Dex that the agreement had been fulfilled. For some plausibility, he can now borrow powers from the demon realm. Our MC now has additional ways to rock the entire Arcadia. Upon verifying the Aconite Tract, Dex experienced an influx of energy emanating from him. He can now choose from a list of characters for his divine disapproval skill. Dex found all of these guys to be fascinating, because these demons' power was directed toward destroying something different from that of the ones from the heavens. Satan discovered that his master was quite pleased with his newfound ability. Then, Dex questioned Satan, asking him why he had not mentioned that he could also give Dex this skill. Satan argues that his master never inquired, and he believed that Dex merely desired the power of heaven. However, it was once more proven that Dex wasn't actually concerned with these things. He began selecting items from the list as though he were going shopping. He selected the individual who resembled the god of death. Satan questioned why Dex would pick this particular demon out of all of them. Then Dex informed him that he had previously seen this man's face in a library history book. L then made an attempt to verify the choice made by his master, and he was pretty surprised. Lynn Armstrong was referred to as Death's Legion by this man. This one was thought to be the most malevolent dark mage that has ever lived. He was the pinnacle of necromancy and, on his own, vanquished 4 kingdoms and an empire. This demon's name was then permanently inscribed in the annals of Arcadia history due to his victory in the war. And at this moment, our MC became the embodiment of Death's power. Dex has begun to take action. He investigated the Duke's estate. He decided that now would be the ideal moment to use his new power after noticing that 2 guards were prowling the area. These 2 senior guards sensed something was off right away. This one informed his friend that there was a person on the roof. Dex was the one who did it. Smiling, our MC performed his divine descent technique, and just as he was supposed to, he selected like Argimer's soul, causing the dark mage's power to pour into his body. There was so much pressure on these guards. Just by glancing at their opponent's face, they are unable to even move their bodies. The divine descent skill was then successfully used, and Dex was notified by the system. Now he could make use of the Ling's power. Dex verified that all of these Ling skills matched his expectations. The guards were aware that this man possessed dark magic abilities, and they could tell that he was proficient in them. He was aware that he needed to exert all of his strength immediately and that he couldn't let his guard down. Additionally, he warned his companion not to attempt to capture this man alive because the man was too dangerous and there was a chance the entire mansion would be in jeopardy. Upon hearing this caution, our MC grinned. Then he launched his assault. Then several shadow figures were let loose in the direction of the guards. Fortunately, one of them was able to deflect the attack thanks to their holy shield skill. The fact that the rumors regarding Duke Burgeon's guards were accurate impressed Dex. They were all quite strong. He also noticed that someone was hurrying in his direction with paladin-like abilities. This man activated his talent for divine power. This was known as the Judgment Blade, which is why his sword began to shine. Dex was not even alarmed. He was aware that their qualities actually ran counter to one another. Our MC employed the Spirit Spear skill. A massive demon was called forth, and it sliced straight through its adversary. This man discovered something the instant he was attacked. It was already too late when he began yelling that Dex was a necromancer. His companion began to tremble with fear as well. He finds it hard to comprehend that the Maroon Kingdom has a lie. This one tried to flee by turning around. It was too late for him to alert everyone to the danger they were in. Knowing that necromancers are most vulnerable just before summoning the undead, Dex made sure this one didn't get away. Moreover, Dex wouldn't want to take a chance against every guard without a proper army. These 2 guards have fallen in an instant. Dex grinned, realizing that he had acquired everything he required. These 2 began to float in the air as our MC used his ability to raise the dead. The guards were then struck by a menacing dark aura, and in due course they were transformed into an intermediate ranked Death Knight and a low ranked Ghoul Warrior. Dex has now devoted this execution to Choi Jeju, the young master of the GM group. There are also necromancers in the world of Arcadia. Because they infused their mana into a corpse, they were the ones able to call forth an army of the dead. It was also known that a lone necromancer was capable of generating its own force. He was able to build an army far larger than that of any kingdom. In large-scale or siege warfare, these demons are also the most sought after. And with his own army of the dead, our MC was currently wreaking havoc inside Duke Burton's mansion. With the execution of his battle plan, Dex was quite happy. The other guards also began to move. They had no idea that an army of the dead would attack them from within. The holy knights they were calling for reinforcements from had also turned into undead, but they were still asking. This person was aware that there was nothing left to be done to thwart the attack. Dex informed them that it appeared as though they were abandoned, but our MC gave them one piece of comfort. He'll see to it that their skeletons are properly utilized. They were stopped in their tracks by the dead's tremendous power. In a short time, the dead were replaced by new recruits in Dex's army. Our MC congratulated these recently converted people while grinning. Additionally, he assigned them the most unique task. He desired for these ones to track down Duke Burton, the man who left them behind. These guys quickly knelt down and said they would do as Dex asked. There were even a few with tears in their eyes. They were appreciative of the chance. The zombie soldiers then continued on their way. Now that he was hiding well, Dex was hoping that Duke Burton wouldn't find him too soon for his army to find him. Now that Dex has taken control of the entire mansion, the noise outside finally caused the elderly man to awaken after a short while. He inquired of his guards as to the cause of the commotion. This individual unlocked the door and told the Duke to leave right away. Alin had materialized inside the mansion, and the guard was already sobbing with terror. This old man's body erupted with terror the moment he heard the word Lin. It was already too late when the Duke told the guard that they should all go defend him. At last, Dex discovered the Duke's hiding place. Then, dark orbs made their way into Duke Burton's room. Then the dark orbs became these undead warriors, and this old man realized what was truly going on. When the guards tried to run away, they were apprehended. They could never prevail over these undead. Duke Burton began to retreat as soon as he noticed these creatures within his mansion. The room filled with more and more undead soldiers. Duke Burton was even able to identify one of these undead fighters' swords. This is the identical sword that Lenry wielded. Then he realized that every monster facing him was one of his former guards. The fact that a necromancer had materialized in the Maroon Kingdom now frightened this guy. Then Dex entered and gave the Duke another greeting. This old man began talking his way out of this mess after recognizing Dex's face. He informed Dex that it wasn't necessary for him to take this action in order to meet with him. He stated to our hero that anything would be acceptable as long as he was kept alive. The only thing that Satan's role model disclosed was his desire for Duke Burton's death. Choi Jeju's haughty demeanor toward our hero could now endanger the Duke's life. The elderly man asked Dex why he was acting in this way, sobbing in terror. Then, Dex advised the Duke to exercise greater caution when forging alliances with people. The war and him becoming king didn't really concern our hero, he continued. He was not even interested in making money from this war. The only thing the Duke should have avoided, he reminded him, was annoying the shit out of Dex. Dex was extremely disappointed because, although he believed the Duke to be wise enough, he was mistaken. To finish his mission, the Duke had to rely on the merchantry associations. Then he gave his soldiers the order to complete this. The personal guards who had been tasked with protecting the elderly man were now moving in his direction. And our hero had interrupted the entire game once more in an instant. He was informed of Duke Burton's passing by the system. The old man's plans came to an abrupt end at this point. Additionally, 321 linked quests have been eliminated. The title of Noble Murderer was added to our hero. Dex gained 53,000 plausibility points with this attack. Dex was happy to see the large reward because it went much beyond the slime incidence rate, and these two familiars suddenly materialized since their master gained more plausibility points. The fact that our MC's familiar senses were so accurate about these things kind of irritated him. Dex asked Satan if he could use this power indefinitely. Satan promised that there was no time limit on this one and that he could use the necromancer's power for as long as he was credible. With his demon face equipped, this demon king now worried about what his master was going to do next. Duke Burton was transformed into one of our MC's undead when he once more employed his skill. He assured everyone that he would make sure everything was done correctly even if he made a mess. Dex intended to obliterate more locations with this power, and he was talking about Choi Jeju right now. The Pope of this place, the young master of the GM group, was having some difficulty falling asleep at the Holy Empire. He hoped that no worshippers of their god would get lost this evening. Imin was the name of this guy. Then, something caught his ear. Someone was speaking to him. It originated from this white-haired woman. This person was named Sylvia, and she belonged to the Holy Empire's list of saints. She went to see the Pope after having a dream in which she experienced a revelation. She was shown that there was a massive dark movement occurring in Arcadia. The Pope's expression changed instantly as she sensed our MC's presence. He then inquired of the saintess whether she knew anything about the location of this darkness. The tiniest detail would be of great assistance to them. Then, Sylvia remembered hearing someone die while yelling Duke Burton's name. Pope knew this man's identity. The real force behind the Maroon Kingdom was Duke Burton. The saintess wept more because she saw in her dreams the pathetic condition in which the guards were dying. The Pope then comforted her, explaining that their gods were warning them in this way. Shortly after, a woman with red hair approached the Pope and the saintess knelt down in front of them. Among the holy knights, this one was Udiel, who holds the highest rank. The saintess had a revelation, and the Pope personally asked for his help. He desired that this holy knight look into Duke Burton's true circumstances. He ought to search for the hint of darkness that surfaced in Arcadia as well. There has been a lot of confusion in Duke Burton's territory since his death. Its military might was diminished by 98% and its entire production capacity by 85%. Fear gripped every resident in the vicinity of the mansion, and they all fled the area. And one adventurer was the reason behind all of these events. Dex cast one last spell to complete his work. The official flag of the Buran Dukedom was destroyed by these black flames. Then, the system informed Dex of his accomplishments. Duke Buran's domain had been subjugated by him alone. He was also given the new title Violent Necromancer. Our hero received 14,000 plausibility in addition to all of these, and he was currently relaxing at the top of the mansion. He considered this to be a truly amazing sight. Now, Dex believed the Necromancer class was too strong. He wished he had made use of this ability sooner, and he began to move toward these soldiers, these skeletons beneath him. Our hero came to understand the one drawback to possessing this power. Eventually, he would grow weary of seeing them every day. Ultimately, League Arjammer's power proved to be very helpful as it enabled him to finish his quest and obtain approximately 60,000 plausibility points. However, something disturbed Dex. He was aware that if this continued, it would not be beneficial to him. Our hero continued to worry that he was abusing his position of authority. He trades his plausibility points for this power, which is why he can only use it to this extent. He may eventually need to use more points, otherwise, the amount he was earning from quests might not be sufficient. Then, Dex inquired of 10 how many points he had already used. Taking out a calculator, the Demon King began to add up the power that Dex used to kill the Duke, destroy the mansion, and call forth all the undead. This familiar gave his master a total wink when he informed him that he would need to pay 42,284 points. Dex heard Tan refer to his master as a weakling as well. The amount was simply too much, so our hero also requested access to some of it. Satan was taken aback by this since he hadn't anticipated that someone would try to negotiate with him. Tan attempted to persuade his master that, given the quantity of power he used, this was actually a reasonable rate. Dex, however, informed him that he ought to be considered a VIP at the very least and that he would like some savings or coupons. After Dex treated him like a department store employee, Satan was already trembling. However, our hero then revealed his weapon to subdue Satan. He threatened to stop doing business with the Demon King and monopolize all the plausibility points if he did not give him discounts. The moment this angel heard this statement, her face lit up. Satan told Dex that he would accept 40,000 points as payment since he could not afford to lose his credibility. Still, our hero refused to back down and insisted on receiving just $35,000. After that, these two kept haggling with one another. Tan was obviously at a disadvantage, though. All could do was observe the depressing negotiations taking place. Satan offered to pay just $36,500 to seal the deal, and our hero cheerfully accepted. They shook hands, but this one was incredibly inexpensive. After calculating every point required, the system subtracted 36,500 points. Additionally, Dex achieved something transcendent. He was the one who defeated the Demon King first. He received this as his new title as well. Additionally, he improved his negotiating abilities by 7 levels with this title. Our hero finds it unbelievable that this skill would increase this much just by ripping off the Demon King. Satan was irritated at the moment because he finds it hard to believe that he experienced such a thing. Elle explained to him the concept of karma. Dex came to the conclusion that they were done with this location after that. In a single night, this adventure turned an entire territory into a disaster. After that, our hero bid Dex farewell. He informed them that he still needed to go somewhere to finish something. Now that he had completed this quest, he would need to wrap things up. As time goes on, the familiars will understand what this object was. After telling Tan and Elle to anticipate it, our hero abruptly logged out. Without delay, he sat down in front of his PC and browsed the Arcadia website. Now, there were forums and news regarding what he did in Duke Burgeon's estate. The news also featured this screenshot, which depicted a necromancer destroying an entire region. The majority of comments find it hard to comprehend that the game would permit something like this to occur. However, our hero was happy to see all of these responses as usual. He pondered the reactions of others upon learning that the perpetrator of this was also responsible for the slime incident. Jin believed he had everything he needed at that moment. He will now carry out his next task, which was to cause havoc in the life of the young master. Our hero had always loved playing role-playing games since he was a young child. Furthermore, he had previously interacted with members of the GM group who were similar to Jeju. Additionally, he discovered the ideal way to handle those who attempted to abuse their authority in order to accomplish certain tasks within the game. Yin began his plan as soon as he became irritated with Jeju. He then started opening a number of his computer's recording files. This one was a recording of Duke Burgeon and Jeju discussing their intentions to take control of the economy of Arcadia. Only Satan and Elle were able to obtain these recordings. After that, Yin edits every scene in which he appears, leaving only the scenes that allow Jeju to be in his company. This guy was overheard conversing with someone and made it obvious that he wanted to rule the entire Maroon Kingdom. Even the part where Jeju declared he would receive all of the money from the foals participating in this game was included by our hero. This was more than sufficient to damage Choi Jeju's reputation with the general public, and he posted the video to his YouTube channel, which currently has over 274,000 subscribers, after he was satisfied with it. He even created this intriguing thumbnail and title. He just had to bide his time until this passed. The night wore on and Yin fell asleep. At this point, the video was receiving a lot of views, and it has received more than 1 million views as of right now. The fact that someone attempted to take advantage of them for their money made the viewers of this one even more enraged. And this guy was awake the entire time. He realized he made a mistake at this precise moment. Then suddenly the old man was there. They were curious as to how their confidential discussion had come to light. They only discussed these topics with places that even their hired mercenaries were unaware of, so they weren't prepared for this. Jeju punched the monitor out of frustration and lost all control. He made a vow to make the person who did this regret their choice. The elderly man attempted to comfort his boss, but they had to conceal this from the GM group, so it was no longer a top concern. However, it appeared that there was no more time. It was his dad phoning. Jeju